The afternoon sun was high over Tamarack, Florida, casting a lazy golden haze over the quiet apartment complexes. It was July 13, 2022, around 3 p.m., a time of day when life slows down, when the heat lulls everyone into a comfortable stillness. But in a second-floor apartment, that stillness was about to be shattered. A chilling 911 call was placed, the voice on the other end reporting an unresponsive woman. What began as a seemingly mundane emergency call was about to become the gateway to a horrifying crime scene, revealing a scene of unimaginable, premeditated violence. This wasn't a sudden outburst. It was a brutal conclusion to a meticulously planned act of betrayal that began weeks earlier, hundreds of miles away, at a party in Miami. What if a secret, digital tracker, meant to uncover a simple infidelity, became the ultimate tool for a murder? And what if the most mundane detail of your day, a casual visitor, was the final step in a meticulously planned plot against you? This is the story of Kayla Hodgson, a young woman whose vibrant life was stolen not by a stranger, but by a meticulously executed conspiracy born from jealousy and obsession. The murder was not an act of chance. It was the final, devastating act of a stalker who used modern technology to track her way to a violent end. This is Say Her Name, a space where we honor the lives and tell the stories of Black women whose cases deserve more attention, whose legacies deserve to be remembered. We are here to ensure that Kayla Hodgson is not just another headline, but a powerful voice against the violence that threatens the vulnerable. Her story, filled with both immense tragedy and immense bravery, forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about our world and the darkness that can lurk beneath a simple act of jealousy. To help us amplify these crucial stories, please subscribe to our channel, and let us know in the comments below. Where are you watching from? Your presence in this conversation makes a powerful difference.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know.
To truly grasp the horror that unfolded in that quiet Tamarack apartment, we must first understand the life that was extinguished within it. We must see Kayla Hodgson not as a crime scene victim, but as the vibrant, cherished person she was. Her story isn't just about a tragic end. It's about a radiant, 23-year-old life full of love, laughter, and an infectious spirit that touched everyone around her. In her world, Kayla was a force of nature. She was the one who could walk into any room and instantly transform the atmosphere, her presence a magnet for joy and connection. Friends and family didn't just know her, they adored her. They described her as a beacon of light, a person who could cut through any darkness with her smile alone. For so many, she was simply the life of every party. But that phrase barely scratched the surface of who she truly was. It wasn't just about the fun. It was about the way she made people feel. She had a boundless heart and an unwavering loyalty that made her a steadfast friend, a confidant, and a source of strength. At the heart of her world was her family. Kayla was a beloved daughter, a cherished elder sister with a bond that was a source of great comfort and strength. She was the granddaughter whose phone calls were a highlight of the week, the niece whose visits brought a special kind of warmth, and the cousin who was always at the center of family gatherings. Her family wasn't just a background detail. It was the very fabric of her existence. They were the ones who knew her jokes, her dreams, and her fierce determination. Her love for them was a quiet, powerful force that shaped her every decision and grounded her in a sense of purpose. As a local bartender, Kayla didn't just serve drinks. She served as a connector and a community builder. Her workplace was an extension of her own personality, a place where she remembered faces and stories, making every customer feel like a regular, a friend. She had an uncanny ability to read people, to know when they needed a quick laugh, a simple conversation, or just a moment of peace. It was a skill that spoke to her deep empathy and her natural desire to care for others. The loyalty and love she inspired were not just from her family and friends, but also from the people she served every night. She was a fixture in her community, a familiar and trusted face who brought a sense of vibrancy and connection to her corner of the city. Beyond her work, Kayla was a young woman with a full and promising life ahead. While the public record may be silent on some aspects of her life, the voices of those who knew her paint a clear picture of a person on the brink of her future. She had dreams and aspirations, a vision of the life she wanted to build, filled with the love of her family and the happiness of her friends. Her life was a canvas waiting for a masterpiece, a beautiful and unfinished work that promised so much. She was a testament to resilience and hope, a person who approached every day with a spirited determination and an open heart. Her life was not without its challenges, but she faced them with the grace and strength that was so inherent to her character. The unimaginable loss of Kayla Hodgson's life has left an immense void. The people who loved her are left with a grief so profound that it is difficult to articulate. The laughter she once brought to every room has been replaced with a haunting silence. The radiant light she was to her family and friends has been extinguished, leaving them to navigate a world that feels a little bit darker without her. The shock of her death lies in the brutal and unjust contrast between the vibrant, loving life she lived and the horrific way it ended. Her story is a painful reminder that even the most beautiful lives can be taken with an incomprehensible violence. But the darkness that consumed her was not random. It was the result of a meticulously planned plot, an act of jealousy so consuming it would turn a mundane afternoon into a crime scene. A jealousy that was fueled by a modern-day tool of obsession. And in the very next moment, her vibrant life would collide with a chilling act of betrayal that she never saw coming. The darkness that would consume Kayla Hodgson did not begin in the quiet afternoon of July 13, 2022. It was born weeks earlier, under the neon glow of Miami nightlife. The initial unsuspecting step into a nightmare was a simple decision to attend a party. A vibrant, music-filled gathering where the lines between a casual meeting and a dangerous entanglement would blur. It was at this party that the lives of Kayla Hodgson and Sakiyna Thompson first crossed paths, a moment that for Sakiyna was not a spark of jealousy, but a direct challenge to her control. Sakiyna's personality was a complex, volatile mix. To those who knew her, she was a fierce and uncompromising fighter, a woman who refused to back down from a challenge. But this same determination, when corrupted by possessiveness and insecurity, transformed into a deep-seated meanness and a volatile nature. She had a reputation for being fiercely territorial, especially when it came to her relationships.
You know that I throw hands, right? You know that I throw hands, right? You know that I throw hands, right? You know that I throw hands, right?
I'ma go buy me a gun, and I'ma come back here and set this motherfucker off.
Sakiyna didn't simply love, she owned. She didn't just feel jealousy, she was consumed by it. She had often described herself as a fighter, and in the twisted logic of her mind, this was a fight she was determined not to lose. So when she arrived at that party in Miami with her boyfriend, Terry, her natural instincts for possession and control were on high alert. The room was alive with conversation and laughter, but Sakiyna's focus narrowed, her vision tunneling as she watched Terry gravitate towards another woman. That woman was Kayla. What started as seemingly harmless small talk and shared laughter felt to Sakiyna like a betrayal of the highest order. She watched them from a distance, her heart tightening with every word and every smile. The jealousy that began as a dull ache in her chest quickly sharpened into a piercing certainty. Something was happening between them. A seed of suspicion, rooted in fear and insecurity, was planted that night, and it would grow into an all-consuming rage that would eventually lead to a brutal crime. In the days and weeks that followed, the jealousy festered, turning Sakiyna's world into a psychological prison. The fleeting moments from the party played on a loop in her mind, convincing her of a deep-seated betrayal. But suspicion was not enough. Sakiyna, driven by a cold, meticulous need for proof, made a chilling and calculated decision. She purchased a GPS tracker, and, without Terry's knowledge, secretly placed it on his car. This was not an act of a person spiraling out of control. It was the cold, deliberate action of someone determined to confirm their worst fears. The tracker became her most intimate and powerful tool, a digital eye that would give her a real-time, minute-by-minute account of Terry's movements. She didn't just want to know where he was. She wanted to know where he was when he wasn't with her. And then, the obsession paid off in the most terrifying way. The tracker's data, which she had been monitoring with an unsettling dedication, sent a chilling notification. On July 13, 2022, Terry's car, the very vehicle she had marked as a silent witness, was parked at the Tamarack Village apartment complex. For Sakiyna, There was no doubt. This was the place. This was the address. This was the person. The data, raw and impartial, had confirmed her darkest suspicions. The short drive from her location to Kayla's apartment wasn't a journey. It was a descent into a hell of her own making. When she arrived at the Tamarack Village apartments, Sakiyna waited in her car, the digital map on her phone a silent, terrifying guide. She saw Terry's car, a white Range Rover, parked exactly where the tracker said it would be. The silence was deafening as she waited for what felt like an eternity. She was a coiled spring of jealousy and rage, and she was watching the man she believed had betrayed her. She waited until she saw Terry leave the apartment. The coast was clear. The trap, which had been set weeks earlier in Miami, was now ready to be sprung. The confrontation that followed was not a passionate argument. It was a brutal, premeditated ambush. Sakiyna found a way to enter Kayla's apartment after Terry's departure, and the moment she was inside, the facade of jealousy gave way to a horrific reality. This was not about words or a physical struggle. This was about a final, definitive act. The details of the attack are harrowing, as described in the legal affidavit. Sakiyna, with a depraved mind without regard for human life, acted with a chilling, calculated brutality. She used a sharp object to stab Kayla multiple times, each blow a testament to her unbridled rage. The violence reached its horrific climax when she inflicted a severe, fatal slash across Kayla's neck, cutting her from ear to ear. This was not an act of momentary violence. It was a meticulously planned and executed act of murder, a final, brutal conclusion to the obsession that had begun weeks earlier. After the brutal act, the rage and violence gave way to a horrifying calm. Sakiyna did not panic. She did not flee in a desperate, frantic run. Her next moves were as cold and calculated as the ones that had brought her to Kayla's door. The very same day as the murder, she calmly met up with Terry, the man who was the catalyst for the entire crime. Together, they boarded a plane and flew back to New York, the place she was from, and the place she believed would be her safe haven. It was a chillingly premeditated move, a clear attempt to evade detection and put as much distance as possible between herself and the horrific crime scene she had left behind. She believed she had gotten away with it. She believed her flight from the state and the nature of her crime would be enough to keep her safe. She had left a dead body in a quiet apartment in Florida and had returned to her home in New York, 1,000 miles away. But what she didn't know was that in the world of modern policing, there are no perfect getaways. There are no secrets that can't be found. There are no safe havens from digital justice. Law enforcement in Florida was about to begin an intense homicide investigation, and they were about to discover a network of evidence that would prove her premeditated intent. The question was, how could a crime committed in Tamarack, Florida, be pinned on a suspect who is now calmly living her life in New York? The answer lay in the very obsession that drove her to murder in the first place. The scene inside Kayla Hodgson's second-floor apartment was a chilling tableau of raw violence. The Broward County Sheriff's Office detectives who arrived on the scene knew immediately this was not a random crime. The sheer brutality of the attack, particularly the vicious slash across her neck, pointed to a crime of passion, a murder fueled by intense personal motive. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong or a casual altercation. This was a targeted, deeply personal act of rage. The detective's first and most crucial task was not to find a weapon or fingerprints. Those would come later, but to find the person who had the motive, the person who hated Kayla enough to do this. The initial hours of the investigation were a whirlwind of activity, focused on answering one simple, yet critical question. Who was the last person to see Kayla alive? A rapid canvass of neighbors and friends, a review of security footage, and a deep dive into Kayla's personal effects all pointed toward a single name: Terry. He was her friend, and her phone records confirmed they had been in frequent contact. It was a lead, a fragile thread, but it was all they had. A team of detectives quickly located Terry and brought him in for questioning. He was nervous, evasive, and his story was inconsistent. He admitted to being at Kayla's apartment that day, confirming he was the last person to have seen her alive. But he insisted he left before the crime occurred. His evasiveness and his history with another woman, Sakiyna Thompson, immediately raised red flags. Detectives discovered that Sakiyna was Terry's long-term girlfriend, a woman known for her possessive and combative nature. Her fierce jealousy was well documented by those who knew them. She was a self-proclaimed fighter, and now, with Kayla's murder, that reputation was taking on a chilling new dimension. But a volatile personality and a motive were not enough to secure a conviction. They needed a concrete link, a trail of evidence that could connect a woman living in New York to a brutal murder in Florida. And that link came in the most unexpected of places: a GPS device found on Terry's car. The discovery of the tracker was the turning point. When confronted, Terry admitted that Sakiyna had a history of tracking his movements. Detectives secured a warrant to seize and analyze the data from the device, and what they found was a chilling, time-stamped roadmap of the murder. The data showed Terry's car arriving at Kayla's Tamarack apartment complex on July 13, 2022. It showed his car leaving shortly thereafter. But the tracker's signal did not leave. Instead, it continued to ping from the very same location for a crucial period of time. This proved without a doubt that someone had followed Terry and was still at the crime scene after he had left. The digital breadcrumbs all pointed to one person: Sakiyna. With the GPS data now in hand, the detectives began a meticulous, step-by-step process of corroboration. They secured another warrant, this time for Sakiyna's mobile phone records and cell tower data. This was the moment the web began to tighten. By cross-referencing the GPS data from the tracker with Sakiyna's phone location data, they created an irrefutable timeline. The cell tower pings and Wi-Fi logs from her phone confirmed she was in the exact same vicinity as the tracker on Terry's car, and at the exact same location as Kayla's apartment, at the precise time of the murder. This wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't a theory. It was an ironclad, dual-layered digital confession. The investigation then turned to the physical evidence from the crime scene. The nature of the stab wounds and the fatal neck slash told a story of unbridled rage and a cold, calculated intent to kill. The brutality matched the personality Sakiyna was known for, a woman who was not afraid to fight for what she felt was hers. Her actions were consistent with the arrest affidavit's description of a depraved mind without regard for human life, and with premeditated intent to cause death. This was not an impulsive act. It was the final, devastating act of a stalker who used modern technology to track her way to a violent end. The evidence was now overwhelming. Sakiyna's obsession with Terry, which had manifested itself in the form of a GPS tracker, had led her to Kayla's apartment. Her rage, fueled by a perceived betrayal, had led her to commit a brutal murder. And her frantic escape back to New York, while she was with Terry, served as a chilling act of premeditation. The Broward Sheriff's Office immediately issued a warrant for her arrest, and the manhunt was now a formal interjurisdictional collaboration. The New York Police Department, acting on the Florida warrant, took Sakiyna into custody on August 3, 2022. She was held without bond and awaited extradition back to Florida to face the murder charges. During her apprehension, the fighter persona Sakiyna so often embraced gave way to a cold silence. She offered no resistance, no desperate attempts to flee. Instead, a chilling, calculated calm settled over her. Back in a Florida courtroom, the narrative of her crime was laid bare. Prosecutors presented their case, with the GPS data, phone logs, and the brutal forensic evidence as their primary weapons. The story of Sakiyna Thompson is a stark reminder that in the modern world, a criminal's greatest weakness might be the very technology they use to commit their crime. Her obsessive jealousy and her fierce determination to control Terry's every move, which led her to plant the GPS tracker, had ultimately led her to a place she could never escape: a Florida courtroom, accused of murder. The tracker, meant to uncover a secret, had instead exposed her own. The digital breadcrumbs she left behind, the GPS data, the phone location logs, the premeditated flight to New York, all served as an overwhelming confession of horror. But as the legal proceedings began, a new and stunning twist was about to unfold, one that would bring a whole new level of complexity to her case, and her claims were about to become a desperate and psychological gamble. The court was about to be presented with a surprising new challenge, a claim that would test the boundaries of legal and public perception. A few weeks into her incarceration, Sakiyna Thompson, the woman accused of a brutal, premeditated murder, made an astonishing claim. She was pregnant. The arrest of Sakiyna Thompson was only the beginning. The legal proceedings that followed were a testament to the immense work of law enforcement and a painful journey for Kayla's family. The state of Florida prosecuted Sakiyna on a charge of first-degree murder. This specific charge was not arbitrary. It was based on the prosecution's belief that Sakiyna acted with both a depraved mind and premeditated intent to cause death. The mountain of evidence, the GPS tracker data, the cell phone pings, and the brutal nature of the crime, all pointed to a cold, calculated act, not a crime of passion. But Sakiyna, ever the fighter, was not going to go down without a battle of her own. A few weeks into her incarceration, she made a startling claim. She was pregnant. She penned a letter to the judge, requesting to be released from jail to give birth, citing a fear of going into labor behind bars. This was a desperate, 11th-hour legal maneuver. A psychological gambit to appeal to the court's mercy and present herself not as a cold-blooded killer, but as a vulnerable first-time mother. While public records don't detail the ultimate outcome of this claim or how it affected the trial, it served as a chilling reminder of Sakiyna's manipulative nature and her relentless pursuit of control, even from behind bars. Ultimately, the facts of the case were overwhelming. The digital evidence, meticulously pieced together by law enforcement, created a timeline that was impossible to dispute. The brutal nature of the attack spoke for itself. Sakiyna was held without bond and was found guilty of first-degree murder, ensuring that justice was served and a sense of security was restored to a community rattled by such a violent, senseless act. While Sakiyna Thompson is and always will be the only one responsible for the death of Kayla Hodgson, we must also acknowledge the complex and volatile circumstances that led to this tragedy. The story is not just about a woman's unchecked jealousy. It's about the reckless choices of a man and how his actions became a significant contributing factor to a horrific outcome. Terry's role in this narrative is a stark and uncomfortable truth. He was a man entangled in a web of his own making, a web of deceit, secrecy, and betrayal. While Sakiyna was allegedly carrying his child, he was secretly seeing another woman, Kayla. This isn't an excuse for murder. It's a crucial piece of the puzzle that explains the depth of the rage Sakiyna felt. Her volatile and possessive nature was ignited by the emotional trauma of discovering that the man who was to be the father of her child was sleeping with someone else. Kayla's murder is a cautionary tale about the ripple effects of betrayal. Terry's infidelity, while not legally a crime, created a powder keg of emotion. He was knowingly seeing two women, one of whom was known to be a fighter with a deeply jealous streak. His lack of transparency and his decision to secretly pursue a relationship with Kayla while Sakiyna was allegedly pregnant acted as a catalyst that pushed an already unstable situation over the edge. While Sakiyna is the one who committed the violent act, the foundation of the tragedy was built on a series of choices that included Terry's deceit. This case forces us to look beyond the immediate crime and examine the interconnected betrayals that led to such a senseless loss of life. This case highlights the dangers of unchecked jealousy and obsession, the importance of addressing underlying conflicts before they escalate into violence, and the role of technology in both enabling and exposing crimes. We need to create communities where individuals feel safe to seek help for their darkest emotions before they escalate into violence. But this story isn't just about the crime or the conviction. It's about a vibrant, loving young woman named Kayla Hodgson. Her legacy is not defined by the brutal way she died, but by the beautiful way she lived. Her story is a powerful call to action, a plea for vigilance, community solidarity, and proactive measures to prevent similar tragedies. We must remember Kayla's infectious spirit, her boundless heart, and the love she gave so freely. We honor her by becoming more vigilant, by speaking out when we see signs of violence, and by making a solemn promise to protect those around us. We honor her by ensuring that her name is never forgotten. To help us amplify these crucial stories and keep the memory of women like Kayla alive, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And let us know in the comments below. What do you believe is the greatest lesson to be learned from this tragic story?